What is going on, everyone? It's Jacqueline here from Nothing But Tech. Hope you guys are all doing well. Welcome back to another video. I'm in San Francisco right now. Samsung Unpacked was yesterday, and I got my hands on the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus. So of course, camera comparison, right? We do a lot of those on this channel. You guys seem to really like them, so I asked you which phones do you want to see compared to. Most common answers were Pixel 3 and iPhone XS. So that's going to be in this video. Keep in mind though, I literally just got the phone yesterday, so I'm trying to get this out to you as quickly as possible. I know pre-orders are starting now, so this should help you make your decision. So if I left anything out or there's something that you wanted to see that just was not featured, just leave a comment down below. I'm happy to make another video, but let's dive right in. Also, we're dealing with hotel acoustics and hotel lighting, so it was either really underexposed or using the window. So hope this looks okay, I hope this sounds okay. Bear with me here. More high quality videos will be back as soon as I get back from San Fran. But yeah, let's dive right in. Okay, so most notable stuff that changed with the S10 and the S10 Plus is the third camera on the back. So there's now a wide angle camera. So it's an 123-degree camera, which basically means that you're getting a much wider field of view. It kind of mirrors what the human eye sees. And that actually gives you a ton of flexibility. So we kind of have a set here of one camera, two cameras, and three cameras on the back. So the Pixel 3 has one camera, the iPhone XS has two, and then the S10 Plus has three. So with the Pixel 3, it's kind of all software based for portrait mode stuff, and for zooming in and stuff, it has like the smart feature of like using your handshake to get a clearer zoom. But where you will see the XS and the S10 Plus and S10 excel over the Pixel 3 is in zooming in or getting different focal ranges. Like the Pixel 3 can handle itself really well in regular photos, but when you're trying to get more in shot or you're trying to get a closer angle of something, the iPhone XS and the S10 Plus are going to just beat the Pixel 3. I would love to see a Pixel 4 with another camera just for the flexibility of it, but the S10 Plus definitely has the most flexibility now over the other two because it has the telephoto and the wide angle. So keep that in mind. Also on the S10 Plus, you're getting a second depth sensor on the front. So on the S10, you just have this regular one camera, but on the S10 Plus, you're getting a depth sensor for better portraits during selfie mode and stuff. I don't take a lot of selfies. You will see one in this video, but yeah, all right. I'm gonna stop it there. Let's dive into picture number one. All right, so this first picture is of me sitting down with the portrait mode, and a lot of times we see that portrait mode is getting better on phones, but it still doesn't do an excellent job with edge detection around hair. That is evident again. So I would say that maybe the iPhone XS is the most natural in terms of edge detection. The Pixel 3 looks really edited. So a lot of times with the Pixel 3, you will see that it really edits and adds contrast and stuff, and sometimes it's the most appealing photo out of camera, but it's a lot of editing. The iPhone XS is like the most neutral, so you have a lot of flexibility to do post edits on it, and then the S10 is kind of somewhere in the middle. It does edit as well. They all actually look pretty good here. It was kind of a harsh environment with a ton of light coming in. I would say they all handled it pretty well. The S10 Plus looks maybe a little overexposed on my face, but then it did well with the rest of the background being exposed as well. Also, the Pixel 3 adds the effect after the fact, so just keep in mind when you're taking the photo, it won't look like it's working, but then after the fact, it will process it, so it takes a little bit longer, but it works really well almost every time. Let's move to the next photo. All right, so this next picture is a test of dynamic range. So that's one of the most important things with the camera. How well can it handle really bright areas of the photo and really dark areas and still make it look good? And they all did a pretty good job. So the S10 Plus to me might actually look the best out of all of these because the blue in the back is so vibrant, but you're really not losing that much detail in the actual heart, which is like the foreground of the photo. You could definitely tell that it processed it to get it to that point, but I think it looks pretty good, and every part of the image actually looks really sharp. The iPhone XS looks a little bit like underexposed actually, and the Pixel 3 looks like it added a little bit too much contrast on the left part of the heart, so you really lost detail there. So yeah, it's like kind of a tough condition for a photo, but I think the S10 Plus looks the best here. Obviously that's just an opinion though. Let me know in the comment what your favorite camera is in like each photo or at the end of this video. Let me know. Also, the last camera test was a blind test, so it was kind of like come in with no preconceived notions and let's do this thing, but since the S10 Plus is a wide angle camera, it didn't really make sense to do that. Blind tests though, they're really good, so I might just do some of them on my Instagram and Twitter with like the regular camera and just see what people think. If you want to see that, you should follow me on there. But yeah, let's move to the next image. All right, this low light shot shows what you see in a lot of images. The color tone is very different. So the Pixel 3 looks a much cooler tone. S10 Plus is actually a much warmer tone. And then The iPhone XS is kind of in between both of them. Low light photos is often where you see cameras kind of fall apart, but they all actually did a pretty good job here. It's kind of hard to say which one looks best. The one that reflects maybe the most like real world, like what it actually looked like in person, is maybe the iPhone XS. The Pixel 3 kind of went a little bit too much to the cool side. And the S10 Plus is a little bit too warm. But I think if you posted any of these, they'd all look pretty good. Low light performance, you often see really noisy pictures and stuff, but I actually haven't found that yet with the S10 Plus. I was out actually last night at like this place with a bridge, and I didn't have the other two phones, but I just snapped a shot on the S10, and it did really well. So I unfortunately did not get a chance to do night shots in this video, and I'm flying out soon, so I didn't have a chance to do it, but I definitely want to explore kind of how the low light performance is in the S10, so I'll be sure to feature that in the full review. If you want to see that, subscribe. I think that the Pixel 3 has the best night mode in certain scenarios, but from the bridge photos last night, it looked pretty good. Obviously, more testing is needed for sure. This is just like your first quick look at the camera, but when we switch over to a low light shot of me, the story kind of changes a little bit for all the phones. Okay, so the XS is just really underexposed here. Like, I don't even know what was going on with that one. So I'm gonna just knock that one out as an option that I would not pick. Obviously with some editing, you can bring it back as you often can in a lot of photos, but like right off the bat, if I just saw that posted, I'd be like, who was this photographer? So yeah, not the best. But when we switch over to the S10, I think it has the best exposure out of all of the pictures. The Pixel 3 added a lot of contrast, so it kind of ruined any detail that you could get in my shirt. This is kind of a tough test because it is low light where I was taking the photo, but then outside there's a window and there's some lights behind me. So it seems like the iPhone XS and the Pixel 3 kind of exposed for the stuff behind me and not me. So that's kind of a tough one. The S10 looks pretty good here. There is some noise in all of the images, which is actually kind of unfortunate to see because there was some window light in the back, but this is kind of just like, as I already said, a tough situation where it's like, what do I expose for? And how do I make this all look good? Another test outdoors to see dynamic range of me. So I'm in the shade. There's a lot of stuff going on in the background. The iPhone XS again looks a little bit underexposed. I just kind of played with it just to see, and I was able to bring that detail back when edited. Pixel 3 also added a lot of contrast, but I think it did a little bit of a better job exposing me. And again, the iPhone XS starts out with a really flat image, so you have more room to edit, whereas the Pixel 3 is already kind of edited. The S10 looks really good here as well, but damn, when you switch over to the wide angle lens, you're so happy to have it. So this is the wide angle lens, and it looks absolutely excellent. So I'm so glad to have it. This is where you really see the advantage of having a wide angle lens over cameras that just don't. You're able to get so much more detail into the frame. It just looks like how you actually saw it, which is always a good thing. So still have really good dynamic range, and you can see that the sky is perfectly blue. I'm kind of in love with this wide angle camera. LG has been doing this for like years on their smartphones, and I'm glad to see Samsung finally jump on. It looks really good, and not just in photos of myself or in like group shots, but also when you're just taking like a landscape or you're trying to show someone how it actually looks. Being able to back up and get more context into the image is huge. So that's kind of the most major improvement this year. You're still getting the variable aperture lens and the great photos, but now this is kind of like the next level where it looks better. And you can see that again with this picture of these flowers. So this is just like with the regular lens, they all look pretty good. The iPhone XS has a much more warmer tone than the other two cameras, but then you zoom out and bam, you can see the buildings in the back, and you can see the granite in the front. It just adds a lot more detail and context to the shot. So normally what you find yourself doing when you don't have a phone like this is you have it, and then you're like, wait, I can't get everyone in, let me back up, or let me move forward if you're trying to get a telephoto shot. But now you don't have to do that. So I'm happy to see that. The S10e also has that same wide angle lens, which is a good thing. The one thing that you're getting on the S10 that the S10e doesn't have is the telephoto lens and the second camera on the front if you have the Plus. But I'm kind of in love with this wide angle camera. But we're gonna move on to the next image, which is of a meter. And here, this is a test of like detail and close up, and they all actually did a really excellent job. So I'm not the best at getting the framing to all be the same when you're holding like 3 phones like a maniac in public and you're just trying to get it done without looking like a crazy person, even more so than you already do when you're just standing there for a couple seconds. It's not the easiest thing to do, but try my best here, and I think that they actually all look pretty similarly framed, I hope. And you can see here the red pops in all of them. There's a lot of contrast in all of the pictures. The Pixel 3 definitely crushes the blacks a lot, or the grays in the meter, so you don't get as much detail. That's not to say that it's not a good image. Like, I think that you're definitely drawn to it because it's so contrasty. It just might not have all the same detail that the other cameras do. And then in terms of the background and stuff, it's still kind of in focus, but you're definitely drawn to the meter, which is more prominent. I don't really have anything negative to say about any of these. They all look pretty good. Same thing when I switch over to a selfie. They all look pretty good. One thing that I did notice is that the iPhone XS and the Pixel 3 flip the image, whereas the Samsung Galaxy S10 just does not. So it looks like the flipped image of the other two. They all look pretty good though, and with the S10 you can zoom out a little bit and get a wider shot, which is kind of nice, but it's a selfie. Like, it just needs to look good enough for Snapchat and stuff. And supposedly we're supposed to get some optimization with Instagram and Snapchat for the S10, so we'll just have to see how that actually works, because you know, like when you look at someone's story and you could just tell that they use like an Android phone because it's just not as well optimized as like an iPhone. Hopefully this changes that, so we'll see. But the selfies, they honestly look fine. My main focus is obviously the rear cameras and how they look, so I did another test of like this gold pole for detail again. They look really good. The iPhone XS tends to have a different hue than the other two cameras. It tends to look like a little bit more warm. Like, people are often like, oh, it looks kind of orange, but it's just like a much warmer hue that you can then tone down, and you can also make the other images warmer. But you definitely see that difference here. That's like the only really main difference here. They all otherwise look pretty good, and the separation of the subject from the background is pretty good and natural. I took another image of the sky just to see like dynamic range in the sky, and damn, these are some really good images. That blue is just so rich. San Francisco weather has been absolutely freezing. Like, I'm wearing 2 jackets, freezing. But when you actually look at the images, it looks like it's a bright, warm day. So that's a thing. But it actually looks really good on here. And you can see that the buildings also have a lot of detail even when you get further and further out. That's pretty impressive. All right, the last test of this video is a video test. And you can see here, I stayed still. It was handheld. And I kind of just wanted to see how the stabilization would be. Samsung talked a lot at their keynote yesterday about how the stabilization should be improved. And they look pretty stable. When you're taking the video on the Pixel 3, it doesn't look that stable, but then it edits it and it ends up looking a little bit more stable. There's obviously a lot of movement in this image, but none of them actually had any issue with exposure. So like, sometimes you see that the exposure changes as the image is happening, and like subjects walk through and stuff, it tries to expose for different things. The exposure here is actually pretty consistent. I would love to do another thing like I did with the Note 9, where I just like use the camera extensively for videos and selfies and stuff. I'm gonna do a lot of that stuff in the full review. I've already done a lot of that with the Pixel 3 and the iPhone XS in their reviews and other camera comparisons, but my main focus is gonna be on testing out the S10. This is just like your quick first look, a camera comparison of like maybe 10 or 11 images. Let me know which phone you like the best in this video. Let me know what other things you want to see tested, and maybe I'll do a part 2 of this camera comparison with more images and more tests. Yeah, so let me know, comment right below. I'm also gonna have a full review and other camera stuff all coming. Alongside, it may not already be up, B&H made this entire trip possible and made all this coverage possible, so I made a full video, kind of the experience at Samsung Unpacked. If you wanna see that, you should click in the description, the link. It's a good video, a lot of YouTubers are in it as well. Subscribe right here so you don't miss any other content. Check out another video right here, and I'm gonna catch you guys on the next one. Thank you for watching. Bye.